What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I wanted to celebrate the 6-month anniversary of Scream 6 releasing in theaters with another review of the film, a re-review. I've watched it last night from when I'm recording this, and I wrote down an absolute essay on my phone here, just a bunch of bullet points as I was watching it, kind of taking notes. I'm going to kind of go through the entire film and the positives, the negatives, how I feel 6 months later. But what I want to do first is kind of just provide a quick little overview, some thoughts so I don't forget them as this video goes on. Well, number one, let me just say, I miss this movie. I missed it in general, I guess. It's been 6 months. It actually feels like it's been longer than that. I also miss the lead up and just the idea of going to the theaters to see a Scream movie. That's something that as I'm watching, I was watching it in my room. Big TV for sure, but it's not the size of a screen of a movie theater. And I just thought, man, it was always such an experience seeing Scream 5, the very first new Scream movie that I saw in theaters. Scream 6, they're events, and they're so much fun to cover and talk about leading into it. I miss it so much, and we probably have quite a while to wait till we get to do it again for 7. But I try not to take it for granted. I try not to take Scream 6 because we don't get these movies all that often, and they are really special when they do happen, no matter if people like or dislike them. And I guess the second thing there is I still love this movie. I'm sorry. I will not, no, I'm not going to apologize. Why should I apologize? This movie I still think is really good. I had an absolute blast with it. I think the strengths are so good in the film. There are some big weaknesses. The weaknesses kind of made me more mad watching it now, which is my third time watching it now at home. So they made me more mad, the weak parts, but the movie is just too good at its best, and it's just so much fun, and it's just so big that I can't say I don't like it. I'm sorry. I love this movie, and I think it's one of the better ones. And it's interesting the flip a lot of people have done. I talk about the Scream Twitter community quite often on this channel. There's some good people there, and a lot of you guys are even there, but there's also some really odd, folks over there that will kind of flip-flop, and people that absolutely loved it the day it came out, or at least they were saying they loved it, and then after a few weeks of it being out, they kind of turned down the film. I don't know where that comes from. I really don't. So with all that being said, let's talk about the movie. I'm going to be looking down a little bit because I want to read kind of from my bullet points and expand upon them. So the first thing I wrote is I liked and didn't like the opening, and I think I felt a little bit stronger about it now than I did when I first watched it, because I think it's still so creative, and I guess creative in the sense that I cannot say I dislike it for the fact of what they did, right? Having a Ghostface kill, not doing the opening title screen, and then having that Ghostface be killed off. It's what we've been asking. That's the thing to me that I'll just never be able to dock points off because of, and I defended that opening against people that absolutely hated it. On the other side of things, I don't think it's got the same energy, and I honestly think part of the reason is it's so long. It goes on for quite a while, and then you kind of wonder, like, did it really have any purpose or meaning? Now, not every opening to the Scream movies have purpose or meaning beyond the scene itself. So there's that impact as well, where it's like, well, a lot of them, whatever happens in the opening, it sets the tone, but it doesn't exactly like come up like 1,000 times throughout the movie. So you have to think about it like that. Again, I think the creativity in doing something that we have asked for so long, like beyond even before Scream 5 even happened, people were asking for an opening like this. So I can't get too mad at it. I don't think it's incredible. I don't think it's the greatest opening. And we've ranked the openings of the Scream movie, but it's still pretty okay. I liked the party scene. There's not too much I have to say there. Introducing the characters, reintroducing the characters, like Chad defending Tara, like I did the first time. That was all good. I wrote down prematurely, and boy, will we come back to this, you had to kill Chad off. And I think the reason why I wrote it when he's talking to Tara in her room, is because they are so good together. And Chad is such a good character in this movie. And what really would have been fantastic to wrap it all up is to have killed him off, because it would have been just a punch to the gut, because it actually was when they did it. And then he gets brought back, at that very last second. I think that was a terrible idea that might even mess with Scream 7. We'll see how it all goes. But I wrote it, again, very early on in the film, because it's just, you see the energy he provides, and he's such a great character in this film. Not in 5, but in this one, obviously he's one of the best. And the relationship between him and Tara is so good in this. And immediately, upon watching the first few scenes Chad was in, I thought, man, this really, it needed to end a different way than what they did. For the bodega scene, I feel like I've kind of lowered myself on it as time has gone on. I wrote Bodega is cool still, not great, not bad. I stand by that. I think the tension is there. I think, them running into just this side little store and being all freaked out and Ghostface running in and causing a bunch of mayhem. It is really cool. It is tense to a degree, but it's also like he really could have, and it's Bailey, right, in the mask. He really could have just like ran up and down the aisles. I suppose he's not doing that because he's afraid that Sam and Tara can like just run out the door if he goes down the wrong aisle. But he can also see down the aisles, and he can also kind of like look over. So I really don't know why it needed to be so slow. Like the scene needed to be slow to, draw out that tension. But in the characters, why did Bailey take it so slow? So I feel like I kind of have to dock it a little bit there. But by the way, the Ghostface call before then, excellent. Roger, I think I wrote it somewhere here. Roger L. Jackson provided us an incredible performance yet again. But honestly, I want to rank it. I never actually got around to doing that. Let's one day on this channel, let's rank the Roger, kind of voices that he does in all 6 of these movies. Because I think he does a really good job, even with Samara Weaving, when she's in the alleyway saying, you're a film professor, but you still walked into the alley. I think that was great. I think when he's calling and he's playing hotter or colder, in the apartment, I think that's excellent as well. So he's just great throughout the entire film, like easily. He's really, really good, and he's great in that phone call as well. I wrote again prematurely because it was kind of just the first scene that both of these characters appeared. They appear separately, but I wrote that Danny and Annika still rule. They are so good. I actually think I like Danny even more now than I did in the past. Annika was always one of my favorite characters, so she kind of stayed exactly the same, but it's because she was already very high. I said Sam rocks, again, maybe prematurely, because just every scene, they really start her off well, with a therapy session. I think she immediately, and I remember this, in theaters, she's just so good right off the bat, and it's like, oh, this is going to be very different than the Sam we knew and the performance that we knew from Scream 5. This is totally different, and be prepared for, a legendary experience, and it is what we got. I said the music matching the moment, so I don't remember what exact scene this was on. However, the music, I know not everybody's that thrilled with like the actual scoring of it, but I think in terms of the tension and just the noises in the background that match, whether it's supposed to be tension or kind of a loud explosive kind of thing, obviously all throughout the movie, I actually think it's really, really good. I didn't have the volume turned up even too high, but I remember it being excellent. I feel like the sound, the tone of the sound, I guess, is really good, and it really got to me. I wrote Roger is elite actually right after that. I also wrote that Kirby is excellent. Every scene Kirby's in, I think she does a really, really great job. Thought that then, still think that now. From her introduction to any of the time she's going off of Bailey, I think Hayden Panettiere did it insanely, and for her coming back in, and who knows how rusty she was, but she was Kirby. She is Kirby, I think, in a lot of ways. She did a fantastic job. We'll come back to her. We'll circle back to Kirby as the video goes on. I said immediately gives away that Ethan is Ghostface. And, okay, look, I'm going to have a lot of things probably to say about Ethan yet again. I said a lot of things about him when I first saw it. I think he is one of, if not the weakest characters in all of Scream history. I don't think the acting was good literally at all. There are a couple moments, actually primarily at the end, when he's kind of serious. He is goofy also as Ghostface, but then he does get a little serious sometimes. I think that is the best acting we got out of Jack Champion, and I think that's the best that Ethan is. Besides that, he is just somebody that, as I said when the movie came out, and I still firmly stand by this, he's not somebody I can get behind. I don't think he's a good character at all. I don't think he was acted well. And also, I guess removed from that, like I said, the phone call where he doesn't look and he says, like, why does everybody, look at the phone? I mean, we spotted that literally in the trailer. We spotted it as soon as the movie came out, and it's like, that's to me, that was a dead giveaway. The entire film is a dead giveaway that it's him. Even at the end when Bailey says, like, of course it's me, it's almost played out like, well, you're supposed to have known the whole time that the cop was the killer. Yes, that is true. There's also plenty of moments where it gives Bailey away, but also Ethan, it's clear as day throughout the entire film that it's him. So the biggest thing this movie did was to keep Quinn as secretive as possible, which I do think they did pretty darn well. The other two, I think they did an absolutely terrible job, which I thought then, I still think now. I wrote that Gale's character backtracks right away with the book. Yeah, I'm not happy with that. I like that scene. I'm always up for a good, punch to the face, I guess, of Gale Weathers. That was all fine. Bringing up Sydney, which I think I wrote like kind of right after it, that was really great. But just in terms of Gale, writing the book, I'm sure, like, right now on the spot, could I have come up with something different? No, not necessarily. Give me a couple minutes to think. I probably could. But, I mean, come on. I think you just had to have not done that. That really wasn't a great move to have Gale write the book that she said, like, I mean, and they literally said that in the movie, so they're kind of self-aware. I guess they're kind of playing into that, but it doesn't really still give them any excuse. I did write the Sydney happy ending quote is basically, like, for the fans or fans talking. I like that line a lot, that Sydney deserves a happy ending. I thought that's what fans have been saying. That's what kind of everybody's been saying. So for Gale to say that, live in the movie, I thought was super, super good. I liked it the first time. I still like it now. Killing Stone, I said, gives Bailey away immediately, which I stand by. I mean, I wrote this last night, but yeah, how they thought they were supposed to, like, put that by us, I have no idea, because, like, look, it's not the first time we've seen it, or I've seen it, and I'm sure other people have seen it more than 2 or 3 times, right? But even the first time, Bailey is coming at it where it's like, well, maybe it's Sam because Sam's, license was found in the crime the first time with Jason and Greg. But then, Sam brings up the therapist, and then, like, the next day, the therapist is murdered, and then Sam's files are stolen. And Bailey gloating about, stabbing through the nose, or whatever he says. And then him and Kirby kind of going back and forth there. And then Kirby even saying out loud, so Sam killed her own therapist and took her own records. And Bailey says, maybe. It's like, did they really think that through? Because does that make any sense for Sam to have actually done? No. Do we as the audience think even remotely that Sam could be the killer? No. Now, it is possible Sam could be a killer or can become a killer, but that's not how the movie was played out. Same thing with Kirby, and I think that was almost borderline insulting that you tried to make us think that Kirby was the killer. It was a huge, one of my main problems with this film. So with that being said, the audience knows that Sam is not the killer. I know the characters don't necessarily, but still, you have to be aware as the filmmakers or as the writers, that's a dead giveaway that Bailey did it. He's the only one who knew about Stone. He's the only one that knew about that alibi. So to me, it didn't really make too much sense. I then wrote, Chad is so good. Don't really know where that came from. Probably just from every scene that Chad was in. Mindy's speech is good. She gets stuff right, but also the idea of killing anyone is laughable, as it doesn't happen. Again, word for word, my own writing of what I did last night, and I'll stand by that. The speech is what we've known from the Scream movies. I have to be honest, the speeches in 5 and 6 I do think kind of weaken as the years go on, as I've kind of seen them more and more. They don't have the staying power that Randy's had in 1, or even when he's talking to Dewey and kind of going over everything in 2. I think those are just a little bit more legendary. Again, I stand by that. I think well acted, and I believe that Mindy would actually do something like that. But again, the idea of she's explaining the movie that they're in, she's explaining the higher budget and the bigger body count, and the old timers are expendable, and even the new people, even like the Sam and Taras of the world, they're expendable. And it's almost more, again, like, it almost gets into insulting territory when you bring that stuff up, and then you're too cowardly as the writers to kill anybody off. So that is honestly a huge reason why the speech gets brought down for me, because it's like you're explaining the movie, but you're actually explaining it wrong because you're too afraid to kill off these characters. Chad would have been a perfect opportunity. Gale, I didn't want her to die, but even if you killed her, that would have lined up with Mindy's speech, and you didn't do. Even the body count, there's not that many deaths in this thing. There might be more than 5. I forgot the numbers, and I forgot to count them, but it's not that big, that much bigger, let's say, of a body count. So that was Mindy's speech. Everybody does well. Chad, the comedy there where he says, this is the part where she tells us the worst part. That's great. Annika and Quinn, all their kind of reactions. Ethan, nope, there's a reason why I didn't say his name. But everybody does really, really well in that scene. It's just it gets brought down by a couple specifics in what she says. Then I say the idea that the core four are suspects is laughable. Was this Annika or Ethan that brought this? It was one of those two, which sucks, because if it was Annika, it's her only weakness as a character. The idea, again, I understand, like, as characters in this fictional universe, Ethan, Quinn, Annika might not trust the core four, but again, you have to also think about it from us, the audience. Are we really supposed to believe that any of the core four, like they say, I think maybe Annika or maybe Quinn says it, that they snapped, and I think it was Quinn, one or more of you snapped and you started killing? Are us, the audience, really supposed to believe that? The answer is no. We do not believe that as the audience, because we haven't been shown at all that any of these four are, like, all we see from Sam is people picking on her and the girl throwing the soda. And that, by the way, is an incredible scene from Melissa. She sells pretty much everything that happens to her extremely well in this movie. But, like, that's all we've seen from her. Tara, like, are we really supposed to suspect her as a killer? Are we supposed to suspect Mindy and Chad? No, not really. So that part, again, that was the ending, really, of that situation. But then, like, after that, then I forgot how quickly the ladder sequence comes, because it's basically right after that. So then we get the core four, when, that line or whatever, the phrase is introduced. I literally wrote core four exclamation point, because it is extremely good. I like the idea of them calling themselves that. Obviously the filmmakers, we the fans, like, everybody kind of has been referencing them as that. So to actually hear it out loud is really cool. And I think I wrote it right after. Family element is very, very good. This scene, a lot of the first half of like, really until this ladder sequence, there are a lot of slow moments in this movie. The slow moments are so good, and I really stand by that. It's actually one of the best aspects of this film and why I think it's so good. Even when there's not all this killing or action or tense or, whatever kind of things, when it slows down and it gets to kind of the heart of these characters, it's about family, a found family, right? And they're just relationship. The core four, the idea that these four moved out there to stay together. Obviously, Sam and Tara are sisters, but they're all really family. The writing there is excellent. The acting there is excellent. Everybody does such a good job. So I got to give that props. And like I said, this literally leads right in to then the entire ladder sequence. So all I wrote is ladder sequence is excellent and one of the best in Scream history. It's a good way of summing it up, I think, because it lasts a pretty okay amount of time. Obviously, there is so much that is happening there. There's the logistics of things, of like, how did Ethan get in there and the knives being stolen. Like, you can go into like those specifics, but when you're there, when you're present, when you're not really focused on that stuff, I think that scene is incredible. I really do believe it is one of the best sequences of, say, 4 to 7 minutes, however long that scene is. It is one of the best sequences in any of the Scream movies, period. I stand by that extremely, because it is so tense. There's so much going on. People are being injured. There's a lot of, I guess tensity will bring that back up, but there's a lot of tension when it comes to going across the ladder. Obviously, Annika being dead at the end of it. It is really, really good. The only weakness there is Annika dies so early, and she's really got maybe 6 scenes in the entire film. That's the biggest weakness, is you kill off one of the most likable characters, not even just in this movie, but just in the entire Scream franchise. I think Annika is extremely likable, and you kill her off. But besides that, and that's not really a weakness, that is you have to have a payoff of some sort. That's not necessarily the right way of doing a payoff. It's more of a negative way, but they do an incredible, incredible job. Then I wrote econ, question mark, so dumb. Again, I didn't buy this for a second. I still caught it this time, just like I caught it the first time. Ethan tells them that he was in econ, and there's 100+ people that can vouch for him, okay? Nobody really believes him. He goes with them to the shrine, and then they walked there. So then at the shrine, which is maybe 5-10 minutes after he told them he had econ in the first place, he says, "Why am I here? My alibi checks out." That's the line. Now, did the writers think that through? Because who checked him in those 10 minutes? They walked from the alleyway to the shrine. So when did they have time to ask any of those 100? Did they text them and say, was Ethan there? And also, by the way, as we know, that was Ethan. It was Ethan who killed Annika. It was Ethan who did the fake thing with Quinn and all. That was him. So he wasn't at econ. So the line of "my alibi checks out," who said your alibi checked out? I hated that line the first time. I hate it this time because it literally doesn't work. Nobody checked him. So that's why I wrote Econ's so dumb. Quinn's death kind of works. You forget about it because of how intense the ladder sequence is. I think the only way that Quinn's death is you cannot believe it like immediately, which I kind of like. I remember first watching the movie, and I always had Quinn like in the background of my mind. If you don't see the character die live in front of you in these Scream movies, oftentimes they're not dead, right? Now, again, like what I wrote, I think they do a really good job of masking it because just it's the start of that long sequence of the ladder. And you're so distracted by the 500 things happening, and you're worried about Annika, you're worried about Mindy, you're not worried about if Quinn's really dead or not. So I do think they did an incredibly good job of that, like of masking the death. That's about as good as you could have asked for. Now, then you start to think about it afterwards. Maybe it gives it away. Bailey, Dermot Mulroney, I don't not like him as much as other people do in this movie. I think he's pretty okay for at least most of it. Him crying, I mean, like, I give it to him a little bit when he was crying, but it's also like, okay, again, like the skeptic, the one who's looking for the killers, even the first time watching the movie, you're like, I don't buy it. I don't buy the crying, right? So, I don't know. I think they did about as good as they could have. He's kind of the weak link that kind of crumbles it all, but I will give it to them, the Quinn fake-out death. I honestly would give that to them. I wrote that Gale and Kirby are cool together. I like their just lines back and forth of Gale thinking she's still like 18. I thought that's really, it was funny. It still is funny to me. I said they move on from Annika way too fast, Mindy mainly. I don't think it's as bad as people thought it was when the movie first came out. They're not like that joyful, like when they're walking to the show. Although Chad, like, I think he puts his finger in Mindy's ear, like to try to like prank her. Pretty sure that happens like in the background as they're walking to the shrine. Could have probably not done that because like her girlfriend just died. So you probably want to like have that grieving process last. And as we've always said, these movies don't really let characters respond from these things or show off, their whatever they feel after somebody dies. But I don't know, like I want more of it. I want, if your girlfriend or boyfriend or whoever, if they die in these movies, you should have some sort of a reaction, which she does. She absolutely does at first, but then they kind of drop it like 10 minutes later. So I would have liked to see that go on a little bit longer. I wrote that the shrine is excellent. I liked all the little details. And then mainly, then I wrote like the acting. Kirby's looks are super good. So when she's looking at Jill's outfit, when she's looking at the knife that stabbed her, I think she doesn't even say that much, Hayden. I think she does a really good job there. Gale, so same thing with Courtney Cox looking at Dewey. I think just by their looks, by the emotion kind of conveyed there, I think both of them did an excellent, excellent job. Then I wrote Sam and Billy are great. The idea of her losing herself to him is very good, or just losing herself in general. I loved it the first time, still love it now. And even again, like this is where the music and kind of like just losing yourself, the camera kind of like focuses on what she's seeing, and again, like her losing herself until she gets snapped out of it, always mainly by Tara, right? Actually, both times that happens, Tara is the one that kind of snaps her out of it. So I love that. I think it works really well, and let's see if you can kind of nail the conclusion in the 7th movie, because you're gonna have to. I wrote that Mindy's wound is gone. That was just a little small detail I noticed when she sat down and her and Kirby went back and forth. Like the wound was just gone, which is, I guess, it was only a cut to the arm, but they sure made it a big deal in the ladder sequence. They made it seem like she was going to bleed out through a cut to her arm, which at the end, then Sam gets stabbed and slashed, and she's completely fine. So they got to work on like how deep the knife cuts in these movies. Like, so Mindy's cut must have been really deep. Sam at the end was just like a little cut, a little stab to the shoulder blade that she got from Quinn and Ethan. Like, they have to kind of specify that a little bit better. I wrote that Mindy and Kirby synchronized is awesome, them kind of going back and forth. I really like that scene. Gale and Sam's talk is great. Kirby and Tara's talk is greater. I like that. I kind of came up with that on the fly. I love Sam and Gale's talk about basically mothers and the relationship, and again, like kind of being a loner in the world. That was great. And then Kirby and Tara's talk about like, what do you do in these situations? Like, how do you get stronger? How do you get past it? Loved it. Again, that really solidifies it's probably at that point that you realize, oh, Kirby is very good in this movie. Like every scene she's in, she has a lot of spunk, a lot of personality, but she can also get pretty real and pretty like humanized, and that's probably the moment that you realize it the most. Randy's retelling is fun, so this is when they're in the park. I like just, Mindy saying like this is how Randy died and all that. That was fun. I said the park call is good. Wish we had the talked about extended ideas. So we made videos on this. A lot of people made videos about whether they never filmed it, so it's not necessarily deleted scene, deleted ideas, where they wanted the park scene to be longer, the phone call would be longer, it would involve a truck, so it would pay more to like the Randy stuff. And again, what I wrote, like the park is fine, it's not too long. It's very, like, I don't even know if you needed to have it in the movie. Well, you did to get them to Gale, I guess, but it's not super impactful, but it's fine. But it's like I kind of wish, hearing what their extended ideas were for it, I would have liked to have seen that. I wrote, you can't steal a cop car. There's some times where Dermot Mulroney, the comedic side of him really comes out. I think that was one of them, where he's just very goofy. I like it. I like him. I liked him when he was serious as a cop, but I also liked him when he was kind of goofy as a cop as well, where he says, like, what are you doing? You even have a license. You can't steal a cop car. And he throws his hand in the air. I like that. The change from day to night, again, quadruple exclamation points. I had a huge problem with this in Scream 5. The day to night thing with the hospital, I still have a big issue with it now. It's broad daylight. It's the middle of the day in the park. They call Ghostface is at Gale's apartment, and it goes from day to night. So was Quinn just hanging out there for several hours? But no, that can't be, because then Sam and Tara get in the car to drive across town. Even if that takes half an hour, if it's 3 o'clock, how does it get to like 7 o'clock at night, right? In that short amount of time, it makes absolutely no sense. So I don't know what time period they thought that they were in the park. Maybe it was like 6:45. The sun was still out, but it was just about to get not so bright out. I don't know, but they need to stop doing that, in my opinion. I said the Gale and Ghostface call is excellent. Quinn is very strong. That was a little, to the boyfriend. But the call is so good, and it goes on such a long time. I think I wrote more parts that would have made a good killer part is great. Can you hold, please? Hanging up the phone and recalling it. That's great. But this is the last time you hear Roger's voice until it's Sam at the end calling Bailey. So you get a lot of Roger. Basically, it's front loaded in this movie. But this is such a long call. It goes on for a while. It gets very meta of, you would have made a good killer. Dewey was the fan favorite. Sydney was like the main lead, like, so she couldn't have done it. And I like so much. Actually, I liked all of the phone call between those. Obviously, it's long overdue, as he says in the beginning of the call, and that's very, very right. I said Gale almost dying is still really good. It still got me. Like, you still kind of believe 50-50 that she is dead versus alive. So there's still a lot of emotion in that, even watching it more than one time. And I remember watching it the first time, I couldn't believe it. I really thought they killed her, and I was ready to not even be mad. Like, I was ready to just kind of get emotional, where it's like, wow, you actually, I don't know. Looking back, I don't know. Maybe I would have respected it a little bit more. Not that I don't respect it, but maybe it would have actually gotten a little bonus if they killed Gale. But no, I don't know. I still believe Gale shouldn't die. I'm going to still say that out loud. Mindy and Chad being afraid. So that's that scene where they're basically crying of kind of like fear, or worriness of not wanting each other to get hurt. I thought that was very emotional. And then I wrote after, Sam giving herself up line. All of them do a really good job of selling that emotion of not wanting to see each other get hurt. Sam feeling very, very, that she's the cause of it all, right? So she'll just give herself up. I think everybody, the acting, the writing, the music, everything was really, really good there. Do a pretty good job of Danny being suspicious. I actually think that, again, if you're watching it kind of with an open mind-ish, point of view, Danny is very suspicious for a large amount of the movie. Now, he saves them with a ladder, but that could just be a way of getting closer to them. But they do a good job, especially of that scene. He runs in, right? Now, Ethan does that too with the econ thing. Danny does it as well. So it's like, yeah, Danny could have been the killer. I would not have doubted that at all, and it would have made sense in some ways because he's kind of absent for parts of the movie. Mindy to Ethan is good, but also pushes a flaw. So I think this is when Mindy is telling Ethan, like, go away, Ghostface, when they're waiting for the next train. I liked it. It's comedic, but it's also kind of serious, and I like the scene, but it's also like, How did and I think, did I write that down? Well, I said Train is excellent for all the reasons we've talked about, but Jesus, Mindy needed to die. I think that entire Train thing, to me, doesn't, like, some of it makes sense, some of it doesn't make sense. One of the things that doesn't make sense, I think I wrote, what was Quinn's plan? That was actually my next thing. What was Quinn's freaking plan? Actually, what was Ethan's plan? Because if I recall correctly, and I just watched it, Chad or Tara blames Danny for separating them. So Danny is the one that separates them with the 4 in one train, and then Mindy and Ethan in the other. So if it wasn't even Ethan that separated Mindy from the group, how did Quinn know to get on the next train? So were Quinn and Ethan going to jump on the same train as everybody else? Would they have been able to get away with it? Would they have been able to kill one of them? Because now you have Danny there, who's pretty strong, Chad there, who's pretty strong. I mean it. What was their plan? Did they know they'd get split up? Because it doesn't really work. And then, of course, the Mindy thing, I made a whole video on it, so I won't go on too long. It's so good. The train scene is so good. It's very horror in a different way than Scream already is, right? Because you got all of these flashing lights, and you got all these sounds in the background of like laughing clowns and all like random noises that are happening. But for the love of God, this was your time to kill her. And I've, again, in the video we've talked about, it makes no sense how you couldn't have killed her there. There's nobody aware of the situation. You had enough time to do a couple more stabs, and then like as we've said, it was to make Ethan look innocent to the audience. But as I've said 1,000 times, and I'll say it now one more time, it doesn't matter if we as the audience think Ethan is innocent. It matters the fictional universe. So to them, killing Mindy off, it doesn't matter. He would have killed Mindy off, showed up at the shrine, and it wouldn't have mattered what happened in the train. It was only for us to have that cool little horror vibe thing going on the train, which was good, and then also for us as the audience to clear Ethan. But the issue is, it doesn't matter what we think about Ethan in that moment. It matters about taking out Mindy. And that's where the movie messed up, in my opinion, royally. One of the worst mess ups that they've ever done. I said Sam not trusting Danny is great from both of them. Good call. Kirby saying good call too. And I guess what I mean by that, I like the character motivations for her doing it. I think she sold it well. I think even Danny saying like, hey, I get it. I get it. Stay safe. Like, I'll be out here. I like that quite a bit. I said, where was Kirby going with the look and walking away? That's a thing. Again, like, I will not buy that Kirby could have been the killer at any point in this movie. And again, I think I wrote it at some point. It's insulting that they tried to like put that on us, that Kirby could have been the killer. However, the look that Kirby gives, and then she walks to her left by the gate, to get in. Why did she have to look so suspicious? Again, like, that's for like the audience, but like, what were her reasons? She was gonna set a trap. Did she hear something to her left? Like, why did she look like that? And we don't really find that answer out. Excellent choice. My favorite Billy line, which when she grabs the knife, really like that. You don't see Billy too often in this movie, but he's really good when he's there. An interesting try with Kirby, but almost insulting. There we go. That's when I wrote. I think that's when I wrote it, when Bailey calls, because it's like, I don't know, you give it a little bit of a, like, you'll give it to them that maybe she was fired, maybe she's like insane, but also you kind of suspect Bailey. So if Bailey's the killer, of course he's going to lie to them. And then it kind of just grows. The issue grows from there, because then like Sam and Tara and Chad, they believe that Kirby's the killer. And it's like, I guess them as characters don't know Kirby all that well, so that's okay. But again, we know Kirby. So it's tough, because now the characters and us are not necessarily on the same page. And for Scream, you try to make us on the same page as the characters. So that's that part. Chad against Ghostface rocks. I've said it before. Hand-to-hand stuff. Love hand-to-hand stuff. There's a lot of dodging the knives. There's a lot of punches. There's a lot of grabbing the arms. Super, super good. Chad needed to die there. Gonna stand by that. It would have made a perfect bow on top, or what, a cherry on top, finishing the bow, whatever the lines are. He needed to die. He really did. That would have been really, and in the moment, he did die. And when Tara tells Sam that we're going to be okay, we're going to get through this at the end, right? I think it was maybe right before Ethan attacks them for the final time. It's like, you buy it, because Chad's gone. Mindy is obviously alive, but they don't actually know that. So for all they know, it's just those two now, and then Kirby. So they're saying like those two are going to be okay. They're going to get through it. I love that. In fact, that's why you didn't need the rest of them, because it's about the Carpenter sisters. So let me just throw that one in there. Dual cleaning the knives still rocks. I'm sorry, I'm always going to stand by that. I know it's cheesy, but both of them cleaning the knives at the same time I think is awesome. Kirby gun scene was great, but flawed. I think I wrote that with the whole Detective Bailey, and it's probably just because, again, how can Sam and Tara, believe actually that it's Kirby and not Bailey from all the stuff that they have hopefully figured out. But it's still a cool scene of the fake out, I guess, of, Ghostface is behind Bailey, and he does make a face originally or at first to be like, oh, I better turn around, but obviously then he shoots her. I thought that was pretty darn cool. Mindy, ? Come on, Sam, when Sam thinks that Quinn is Mindy. Look, I know you don't know who the third killer is, but how could you possibly believe that Mindy's the third killer? That's a weakness, and that's just a stupid kind of writing thing. The reveal plus the motives I love and hate, for the reasons we've all talked about. I like a lot of the monologue. I like a lot of the moving parts. Like, literally, they're moving, and Sam's getting attacked, and they're kind of, like, scaring them. Like, they'll get up in their face sometimes. I think that's really, really good. And even then, I think I wrote when Sam starts to turn the tables on them. All of that is excellent. It's the more nitty-gritty of, and I think I wrote down, what did Bailey think would happen with Quinn? And this is when Sam says, like, what do you plan on doing here? Like, do you plan on, like, disappearing, right? And it's like, yeah. And then he says, no, like, they're not going to do that. They're going to go and kill Mindy and Gale. Well, what about Quinn? And again, I said that where, yeah, what did they think was going to happen? Like, eventually it was going to be known that Quinn didn't actually die, or there was some sort of fake out. So, like, wouldn't they have been caught eventually anyway? That doesn't really make sense to me. The Richie reveal was great. I actually really liked that. That's when they say, the brother died. I think that was a good kind of reveal and everything. Sam and Tara shake off some pretty bad injuries. I guess that could be said about a lot of the characters in this movie, unless it not, because, like, Tara gets stabbed in the gut just like Annika did. Now, Annika kind of got ripped open. Tara didn't, but these people, just shake off stabs or strikes or whatever that other characters might get gravely injured from or die. It's the same thing with Kirby when she gets stabbed by Ethan. I never really thought she was in danger of re-dying because she's already been stabbed there before, and she didn't die there. So that's one thing. Tables turning is awesome. So that's, again, when Sam starts to insult Richie. Melissa really destroyed, and I mean that in a good way, crushed, maybe that's a better word. She did such a good job in this reveal, in the ending, of turning the tables, of attacking them, of going full psycho. She did great in 5, she did great in 6, even greater, I would say, in 6. Kirby helping but being stabbed, and then Sam destroying Ethan. Those are just kind of highlights. I liked that. Now, if Kirby didn't help them in shooting Bailey a few times, I don't know if they would have been able to escape that little, like, triangle formation that they had on them. But I guess you don't have to worry about it because Kirby did end up helping them. Sam letting Tara go, I liked that double kind of meaning of literally you have to let, and she brings that up, thanks for letting me go. And then I think Sam says, like, you were ready, or, whatever she says. I think that was really good, a really good dual kind of meaning there. Then I did say Tara's stab is not that serious, again, shaking off the injury. Tara laughing clearly. I really wanted to, like, pay attention to this one, especially also when she gives her the nod at the end to kill Bailey. Tara is also kind of unhinged. At least they play it off in those 2 scenes. And hopefully, maybe, they do something with that in 7. As of right now, they're kind of like oddities. Maybe in 7, they'll do something more with it because she clearly laughs. Like, she's crying a little bit, but she's mainly, like, 90% laughing when she kills Ethan. So she enjoys it, kind of. Sam's head turn, another thing. I loved it in the TV spot or trailers. Loved it the first time, loved it now. Ominous music when Sam calls Bailey. I've talked about this before. Literally, it's hard, like, just the ambient kind of noise that's happening behind the Ghostface call, I think is legendary. I think is really, like, atmospheric. Like, it just feels so good. So I absolutely love that. Then I literally wrote Ghostface call is absolutely incredible. They'll never take that away from the movie. I thought everybody did so great there. Probably the one who's still alive. It's one of my favorite lines in any of these Scream movies. Sam is literally Ghostface, destroys Bailey. Just the stabbing, so good. But she has the call. She has a much longer call than, say, like Sydney had in the first movie, and she kills, or almost kills, as Ghostface. So she, I think, embodies Ghostface much more than any character. Obviously, that isn't literally Ghostface, so like Ghostface Killers. She does an insanely good job. Tara's head turn to give her the okay. Again, I like that. I wanted them to do more, or they will, hopefully, do more with that in 7. I wrote that Sam likes it and Melissa sells it so well. And I guess this is after she does that, and she stabs Bailey, and they're both kind of looking. And again, I think that's the acting. Like, they don't really talk. And I think Melissa just really sells, like, I think Sam really enjoyed doing that. And again, from Sam's point of view, she likes it. Melissa just did a good job of acting it. I saw that in a Scary Movie once. Love that line. That's one of the better lines as well. Sam's disbelief that Danny is cleared. I like that quite a bit, where it's almost like we as an audience forgot about Danny. I think Sam kind of forgot about Danny as well. So when she sees him come in and she's like, holy God, you survived it, but also you were not Ghostface, right? And I think we both, Sam felt the same stuff we felt. I thought they did a really good job there. Kirby's goodbye I thought was really great. Chad should have died 100%. It was just so awkward because Tara starts to cry because she remembers that Chad died. And I thought that was good. I actually think that makes sense in real life, that you would maybe forget when you're in a life or death situation with the killers as they were. She'd probably forget, and then she remembered and she started crying. I thought that worked. And then they reintroduced Chad maybe 5 seconds after she said that, so that wasn't a good look. Did I miss the monologue again? That was although Mindy should have died, that was a very, very good line. That she partially called it again, and did I miss the monologue? Music when Sam opens the jacket again. That's like that ambient kind of music going on when she opens to see the Ghostface mask. Thought that was excellent. Obviously, I wrote plus that she took it just in general. That evil, that darkness is still there, and I really like it. And then the 3 of them walking away is legendary. So it's the 2 of them, and then Danny kind of joins in. I thought it was great. I also wrote, as some final thoughts, not having Gale in the ending is definitely a choice. I don't hate it because I actually think it worked, but then you start to think about, well, could Gale have added to it? And then it kind of becomes more. And I also had a very similar thing with Dewey and Sydney, because I wrote down, I didn't actively miss either of them in the movie, but I do wonder what their impact would have been. Now, I wrote Dewey because this is the first movie you don't have, one of the main leads that you had all the other times. So, but I do stand by that. I think literally throughout the movie, I didn't miss them because I think the movie does a really good job of moving quick and concentrating on who it has. And that's good. I think that's a strength. But then, yeah, you think about it and you think, okay, well, what could they have done to make it even better or change it up a little bit? And then that's where it gets a little bit more messy. And I said, overall, I still love it. It has major, major flaws, which we've talked about, but it's also an incredible blast with excellent acting, big moments, small moments, and things we've been asking for forever. And I think that sums it up. I think this movie did a lot that we have wanted them to do. I think Melissa did a 10 out of 10 job. I think a lot of the central characters, Chad, Sam, Tara, Mindy, a little bit definitely lower than them, but those 3 I thought were so good. Kirby played such a bigger role than I thought. Characters like Annika were a really cool surprise of how good they were. Yes, there's weaknesses, but I think this movie is really good. So again, I will not apologize. I think this is one of the better Scream movies, and I'm not sorry about that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.